5,000 miles of treacherous terrain, connecting empires and cultures. But the Silk Road wasn't just about trading beautiful fabrics for precious metals. It was a highway for secrets, a conduit for deadly epidemics like the Black Death, and a battleground for empires. Today, we're journeying back in time to uncover the dark, hidden history of the world's most famous trade route. This is the story of espionage, disease, and conquest that lurks in the shadow of silk and spice. The term Silk Road itself is a bit of a modern invention, coined in the 19th century by a German geographer. But the network it describes is ancient, dating back over to millennia. It wasn't a single road, but a sprawling web of caravan trails, sea routes, and mountain passes, stretching from the heart of China all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. Imagine a vast circulatory system for the ancient world, pumping goods, ideas, and people across continents. It all started around the 2nd century BC, with the Han Dynasty in China. Emperor Wu was determined to find allies against the nomadic Xiongnu tribes who constantly threatened his northern borders. He sent an envoy named Zhang Qian on a mission west. Though Zhang Qian was captured and held prisoner for over a decade, his eventual escape and return to China brought back incredible stories of powerful civilizations, sophisticated goods, and a breed of heavenly horses far superior to anything in China. This sparked China's ambition. They realized the immense potential for trade and political influence. The main route snaked west from the ancient Chinese capital of Chang'an, now Xi'an. One path went north of the Taklamakan Desert, a place whose name chillingly means you go in, but you don't come out. Another, more treacherous route went south. These trails converged at Kashgar, a legendary oasis city, before splitting again towards Persia, India, and ultimately Europe. These weren't paved highways. They were dangerous paths through some of the harshest landscapes on Earth, from scorching deserts to frozen mountain peaks. And what traveled along these routes? Of course, there was silk. To the Romans, it was a fabric worth its weight in gold, a symbol of decadent luxury. They were so obsessed with it, they had no idea how it was made. Some believed it grew on trees. The Chinese guarded the secret of sericulture, the cultivation of silkworms, so fiercely that smuggling silkworm eggs was punishable by death. For centuries, they held a complete monopoly, making silk the ultimate economic weapon. But silk was just the beginning. From the east came paper, gunpowder, and the compass, inventions that would fundamentally reshape the west. From the west came gold, silver, glassware, wool, and linen. Spices like cinnamon and nutmeg, once unimaginably exotic, slowly made their way into European kitchens, all thanks to this sprawling network. One of the most famous names associated with the Silk Road is Marco Polo. His 13th century travelogue, The Travels of Marco Polo, gave Europeans their first detailed glimpse into the mysterious East. He described the immense wealth of Kublai Khan's court, the bustling cities, and the strange customs of the Mongol Empire. But here's the controversy. Did Marco Polo actually go to China? Some historians raise serious doubts. For someone who supposedly spent 17 years in China, serving the Great Khan himself, his accounts have some glaring omissions. He never mentions the Great Wall, which was a significant structure even then. He doesn't talk about chopsticks, a fundamental part of Chinese dining, nor does he mention the custom of foot binding, which was practiced during that period. His name doesn't appear in any of the extensive Chinese or Mongol records of the era, which were usually meticulous about documenting foreign visitors, especially those in the Khan's service. So what's the alternative theory? Some scholars suggest that Marco Polo may have gathered his stories from Persian merchants he met at trading posts in places like Constantinople or along the Black Sea. He might have been a brilliant storyteller who compiled second-hand accounts and presented them as his own first-hand experience. We may never know for sure if he was a great explorer or a great embellisher. But regardless, his book fired up the European imagination, inspiring future explorers, including Christopher Columbus, to seek new routes to the riches of the East. While the Silk Road facilitated the exchange of beautiful goods and profound ideas, it also carried a much more sinister cargo: disease. The same caravans and ships that transported silk and spices were perfect vessels for bacteria and viruses. The most devastating of these was the Black Death. In the mid-14th century, the bacterium Yersinia pestis, which causes bubonic plague, began its deadly march westward from the arid plains of Central Asia. The plague was carried by fleas living on black rats, which were common stowaways in merchant caravans and aboard trading ships. The Mongol army, during their siege of the Genoese trading port of Kafar in the Crimea, is famously said to have catapulted plague-infected corpses over the city walls, an early and horrifying example of biological warfare. From Kafar, Genoese ships carried the plague back to Italy. From there, it spread like wildfire across Europe. Within 5 years, the Black Death wiped out an estimated 30 to 60% of Europe's population. It was an apocalyptic event that reshaped society from the ground up. Labor shortages led to the collapse of the feudal system. Social structures were turned upside down, and the psychological trauma echoed for generations. The Silk Road, the artery of prosperity, had become a vector of death on an unimaginable scale. The flow of goods and people also made the Silk Road a hotbed for espionage. Controlling the trade routes meant controlling wealth and power, and every empire wanted an edge. As we mentioned, the secret of silk production was China's most valuable state secret. Legend has it that the secret was finally smuggled out of China in the 6th century by 2 Nestorian monks who were sent as spies by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian. They reportedly hid silkworm eggs and mulberry seeds inside their hollow bamboo walking staffs, successfully bringing them to Constantinople and breaking the Chinese monopoly forever. Information was as valuable as any commodity. Spies disguised as merchants, monks, or emissaries traveled the routes, gathering intelligence on military strength, political instability, and economic vulnerabilities. They mapped out strategic locations, learned new languages, and reported back to their rulers. The Sogdians, a people from Central Asia, were master merchants of the Silk Road, but they were also brilliant information brokers, using their vast network to collect and sell intelligence to the highest bidder. The Silk Road wasn't just a trade route. It was a theater for the ancient world's great game of spy versus spy. Beyond the well-known stories, the Silk Road holds countless hidden treasures and forgotten tales. Deep in the deserts of western China lie the Mongol caves, also known as the Caves of the Thousand Buddhas. For centuries, this was a thriving center of Buddhist worship and learning. In the year 1900, a Taoist monk stumbled upon a sealed-off cave that had been hidden for nearly 900 years. Inside was a treasure trove, the Library Cave. It contained tens of thousands of manuscripts, paintings, and textiles, perfectly preserved by the dry desert air. These weren't just Buddhist scriptures. There were legal documents, business contracts, calendars, and even poems, written in over a dozen different languages. They provided an unprecedented snapshot of daily life along the Silk Road a millennium ago. We learned about the multicultural communities that lived there, the goods they traded, and the ideas they shared. It was a time capsule that completely rewrote our understanding of this ancient world. So, the Silk Road was far more than a path for luxury goods. It was a double-edged sword. It fostered the exchange of culture, art, religion, and technology, connecting humanity in ways never before imagined. But it also brought conflict, spread devastating plagues, and served as a shadowy highway for spies and armies. It demonstrates that with every great connection comes great risk. The story of the Silk Road is the story of globalization in its earliest, most raw, and most dangerous form. What do you think is the most fascinating part of the Silk Road's hidden history? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the epic sagas of trade and intrigue, please give this video a like. And for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next adventure.